Hey guys, what's going on? Tim here in the Revolve Realty studio, back with my old buddy, Michael Zuber, author of One Rental at a Time. And I told you this a second ago, you are like the calming voice out there at the moment. So, how are things in California?
Oh, good. Well, I appreciate that. I certainly try to be. Real estate investing, it's not like stocks, right? Stocks,
Mm-hmm.
every minute, every second. I have had that emotion, many decades ago of,
Yeah.
of watching it every day. And real estate's just not that same way. I've been doing it through some pretty horrific events. And, this one is a little faster, a little deeper, but it will be so much shorter.
Yeah.
It's important to kind of realize that this is not going to be a 2, a 3, or 4 year kind of event. So, yeah, I want people to calm down because I think real estate investing, some of it will go on sale, right? There's always motivated
Mm-hmm.
sellers.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when owner occupants are afraid. That's what I talk a lot about on my channel. It's owner occupants because they're my competitors, and then cost of capital. And I think 2020 is going to be a tremendous year to be a real estate investor because you can count on the low cost of capital. You could count on owner occupants not being interested, at least for the next 6 months or so. They may come around in Q4, but Q4 traditionally is not an owner occupant driven quarter because it's rainy and it's cold and all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. So I'm excited by 2020. Now, we've got to get through a couple of months that are going to be choppy. And, as a landlord, just like everyone else, I'm wondering if my tenants are going to pay, which we can talk about. But,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's not, it's not anything to be scared about, at least from real estate investing. It's certainly a health scare.
Yeah.
And, if you're working in retail or restaurants, it's going to be uncomfortable, but you have the best unemployment benefits today that we've ever had with that extra $600 a week kicker from the Fed. So, you know, it's it's you know, it's going to be a thing, but it's not going to be this big scary Great Depression thing. It's just
Yeah.
not.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on the internet with some of our. They're not really my peers; they're more your peers. But how is life in general? Because I'll tell you right here where I am in Huntsville, Alabama.
Mhm.
Just over the weekend, the governor came out and said, "Okay, we're going to hunker everybody down. Everybody, mandatory stay at home unless you're an essential business." And she got a lot of flack from folks outside of the state for how long she took to do that. But her thing was, we're not going to overreact here. We're gonna look at this thing day by day, and when it gets to that point, and really what they did, I think, was they looked at the little cell phone data that everybody's bandying around that
Mhm.
showed that people really hadn't changed much. I mean, you would go to the stores here, they would still be full, lots of traffic, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but even with that step, I mean, a lot more folks are staying home, I think, but we're really not seeing a tremendous change in life. We all still have food, we all still have
Yeah.
electricity, we all still have water, and the one thing, and I mentioned this the other day on a video, everybody here is so polite now. This is, I mean, the South, we're known for our Southern hospitality, but now when you go to the grocery store, everybody's just, the few people that are there and the people that work there, very friendly, very polite. Everybody's
Yeah.
keeping their distance. And, that was one of my things is maybe a side effect of this is people will be nice again. But what's the atmosphere like there in California? Because you guys are a world
Yeah.
apart from us good old boys down here.
It's interesting because you just went on what we're calling shelter in place.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first county, right? So I live in the Santa Clara County, which is affectionately called the Bay Area,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been shelter in place. It feels like 3 weeks. It might be 3.5 weeks.
You guys were one of the
So
first, right?
we were the first.
Yeah. Okay.
There might have been a place in Washington State, but we were the first county who wasn't having a spike to go on a shelter in place, and um, it is it takes a week or so to get your groove going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I feel for folks who have young children. I have a neighbor to my right that's got 3 kids under 5. I have a neighbor straight ahead who's got 2 kids under 5, and their world's in a muck, right? They're both mom and dad are in technology. They're trying to do Zoom calls, and it's got to be rough. But what I'm hearing from them is it took about a week and a half to get a cadence, nap schedules, and feedings. I mean, because they're doing everything. I just feel for them.
A lot of people don't want to stay home with their kids.
Well, it's
I mean,
funny,
let's be
right?
honest, they don't.
Well, it's funny when you talk to people about financial independence. What do I hear most? I want to spend more time with family. I mean, that's what I hear, right? When
Until
I go
you
around and
do.
yeah, I say congratulations, you have 30 days. By like day 4, they're like, I want to go back to work. But you know what? Now they got their groove going. I've talked to both of them in the last 48 hours, and they're like, okay, we get it. Olivia and I are we're not going out. We've been out. I've driven my car once in a month.
Have you really?
That was
wow.
Yeah, that was to go to a grocery store, a Costco specifically. We wanted to stock up on a few things. But yeah, it is interesting. We're not seeing a lot of people. I mean, we can go 2 or 3 days, and I do one thing outside every day. I exercise outside, so I might see 3 or 4 people. But yeah, we're just our life really didn't change, right? We both have been unemployed for a couple of years now, retired because of real estate. The only thing that really changed for us is we used to love to eat out, right? We used to love to go to restaurants, and that's off the table. But I'm lucky that Olivia is a tremendous cook. So
I've gained like 10 pounds since the start because Melissa's cooking everything.
Yeah, you got to watch out, man. That's what I sent out a post yesterday. I actually took it from April Crossley, an investor out in the Northeast, and she sent out this little chalkboard that says, "What's going to happen to you? Right? Are you going to be fat as blank? Are you going to be an alcoholic? Are you going to be divorced? Are you going to be pregnant? Or are you going to learn something?" Right? I mean, there's all these downsides that come from staying home.
Yeah, the best
one. You got to make
a
choice.
Yeah, the best one I heard yesterday. Someone on Facebook posted they're preschooling their kids or they're homeschooling for the first time ever, and the guy's like, "God, I hope they can get a GED." we're screwed otherwise. So, well, let's of course let's talk about the rental market because you, in my opinion, you wrote the best book on how to get started with buy and hold real estate. You've got 150 plus doors.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about your mindset as a guy who has all of these rental properties and folks paying monthly rent. How are you remaining sane, Michael? Are you sedated?
Yes. Yeah. No. I
because I would probably be pulling out this hair. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
No. So again, I'm like everyone. So this really, I started to get nervous. What would have been around March 15th, March 16th, when you look it up and you have 150 plus tenants. I would say that my stuff, everybody wants to talk about classes. I have affordable housing, which if you want to put it somewhere, it's class C. I'd say 90% of my stuff is class C with 10% class B. I have 0 class A, don't want any class A stuff. So yeah, I was going, okay, what's going on? So I did a detailed review of my portfolio and started talking via my property manager to my tenants. So with rough numbers, we collect about 30% of our income from Section 8, right? Federal. We had 100% confidence that money was going to show up. So check that came in. We found 20 cash paying tenants. So just over 10% of our portfolio who had, big, nice houses that was like, okay, if one of them lost their job, this could be a problem, right? Because because again, we have their applications. So we know what their jobs were. We identified the risks. So we felt pretty good about our rent collection. So now we're on day 7, right? I have numbers through day 6. We've collected 72% of our rent through April 6th. I also can compare that with March 6th, where we collected 76% of our rent through March 6th. So it's a little bit behind. We've collected rent from 9 of the 20 at risk. So that's better than I expected, frankly. We have always collected about 20% of our rent between the 5th and the 10th. Don't ask me why. It's just how it happens. So all in all, April is going to be fine. I did do a review in that same March 16th area that I said, you know what, I think I could lose 10% of my rent collection. That was kind of my baseline. But then, because I'm a conservative investor, which I talk about in the book, we could limp along with 50%, right? If we collected 50% of our rent, we could pay all our bills. We're not going to ask for forbearance. We're going to pay everything, because I think there's a big gotcha in all this forbearance talk. But yeah, in the end, I'm going to help people that need help. If you're one of my tenants and you were in retail or a restaurant, you can prove that to me. I'm going to do anything I can to help you, because this is nothing you created. I'll do things like payment plans. I'll do things like half off until you get your job back. But, in fairness, most of my tenants with this souped up unemployment, they're going to be making as much income, if not more, staying home. That's just the math of where I invest. So once unemployment starts kicking in, which it hasn't yet, nobody's gotten their checks yet. Nobody's got their supercharged checks yet. Once that comes, I think it gets easier. I think April's a messy month. May could be a little bit messy, but I'm not all that concerned because, I've done the numbers.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're in a better position than probably a lot of folks who do what you do. I know maybe. A number of them who are really, really heavily leveraged, and they're a little nervous.
Yeah. Well, yeah, being highly leveraged is it feels good when the market's up and to the right, but high leverage doesn't really work even in a flat market. And I've never been a fan of that kind of mindset. I think it works when it works, but then it blows you up.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about
I saw it in 2008.
Yeah, the forbearance thing that everybody's talking about, because I think it can be helpful, but if the banks don't get their act together after the 90 days, it can be problematic, because I know a lot of them are like, we're going to give you 90 days, but then at the end of the 90 days, all of that money comes due. So, and that's one of the things, a lot of the talk that I hear about forbearance is at the end of that 90 days, who's going to have 4 months worth of mortgage payments to send in? Very, very few people, I would think.
Well, yeah, let's just say if you had 4 months of payments, you probably could have made your payments.
You would have made the payments. I mean, that's us. I mean, I don't have the anywhere near the portfolio you do. I just have a handful. And, we are, what I think our thing is, we're going to go ahead and just kind of put in for the forbearance, but we're going to continue to pay. If we've got it, we're going to pay it. So far, everything is good. I'm not leveraged as highly as you are, but it's an unnerving time. You and I are fortunate. We don't have to work a day job to buy groceries. Right. And I feel for those people who do, but someone the other day was saying, I sympathize with them, but I don't want their burden to become mine. And I understand that, because it very easily can.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of financial misunderstanding going on. I think the average understanding of folks, even in the real estate business, is not great. One of the big fears, going back to the previous topic, was people just wouldn't pay rent, right? They would hear about no evictions and all of that, and they go, woohoo, rent holiday, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's just not true, right?
Right.
Yes, we can evict if you don't pay, but believe me, we're going to do everything we can because we need to have a stick. And, we have mortgages to pay, and you want me to maintain, and I have property taxes and insurance. So we're going to run a business. And if you're trying to game the system, which clearly some people will, we're going to get you when you can.
Yeah.
But I think the same thing applies to landlords. One of the things that discourages me the most is on social media, when I hear landlords, out of one side of their mouth, they're going, oh, my tenants are going to screw me. And then out of the other side of their mouth, they're going to go screw their mortgage person. And I think that doublespeak that shines a lot of light on the character of you as a person.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. I think you're going to see the true character of a lot of people during this.
It's not a positive light. And
most of the time, no.
Yeah, karma's going to get you.
Yeah. What kind of communication have you had going between yourself and your tenants?
Zero.
Okay.
All my communication goes through my property manager. I've had extreme communication with my property manager.
And he's communicating with the tenants?
Yeah, I don't want my tenants to know who I am.
Sure.
Never.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started talking last month. We started talking on the 15th or 16th. We're getting a game plan. We audited my tenants. We found the risks. We communicated out. Now we're starting calls saying, hey, you're late. What's going on? So it's and it's kind of, we're just trying to treat it as business as usual.
But you let them know the rent is still due.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're posting notices and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And, I think we had one person call back saying, hey, you can't evict me. We're like, yeah, we can't evict you, but rent's still due. Do you want a payment plan? Blah, blah, blah. Because we will file this against your credit, and, you will have a hard time, getting a new place because of this. And these are all true statements, right? We're not, and if they can't pay, again, if somebody can't pay because, mom worked at a restaurant and dad was a retail person, I'm not going to do that, right? If we can find proof of that, that's just not who I am. I'll probably give that couple free rent, because I'm lucky to be in the position I am. But if you're playing games with me, I'll wait. I'll hit you with a hammer when this is all done. No problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't get me started on this topic, because I have helped a lot of people, and usually you get taken advantage of.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure. I guess that's just the nature of the beast. What about those landlords out there who, unlike you, are not okay with this, that do run the risk if the rent is not paid, they could be in deep trouble. Should they talk to their mortgage company? What's
absolutely.
The best course of action for them?
Oh, without question. If you're a landlord out there, whether you have one house or 100 houses, and you have a true hardship, because, like, for example, if you were in Las Vegas today, right, and you rented, you had a 30-unit apartment building that rented to cocktail waitresses and magic acts and all these. I mean, Las Vegas is going to be the epicenter for pain. I would call my lender immediately. I would say, hey, here's all my tenant applications. They all work for the Wynn and the Encore and Caesar's Palace and blah, 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 blah. And nobody's working.
Right.
Oh, by the way, I've got some kind of some rent coming in, but it's 30% of what it was, because, they all have unemployment, and I've agreed to $200 a month instead of $800, or I'm just making stuff up. So I can show some income. I would file immediately if I could document it to that level, because I've been through 2008. And I've known what it talks, when you can talk with banks. And if you can prove a true hardship, you can absolutely work through this, because no bank wants to take over a 30-unit building in Las Vegas today. Right. That much I promise you. So work it out, and it'll be hard, and you'll have to document everything to the nth degree. But if you are in pain because of this, call and over communicate. Just like I over communicate with my tenants, over communicate with your mortgage lender. But there are so many people today that just fear what might be coming. They don't have data yet, but they're calling their lenders asking for forbearance, which the lender has to give you it, no questions asked, which was in the bill. So everybody's getting these 90 days or 6 months. I tell you, it's going to come back and bite most people in the ass, because you don't need it yet. It's only the 6th of April, right? Or the 7th of April. I mean, you don't even know if your tenants are paying it. What are you doing asking for help?
Yeah.
That's just crazy to me. But no, if you are hurt, whether one house or hundreds, and you could say, hey, I have property in New York City and nobody's working, whatever it is, call. But don't just call because again, I hate that. Landlords bitch about their tenants not paying rent, and then the other side of their mouth, they're calling their lenders when they don't even have facts yet.
Right.
That's not okay, in my opinion.
Yeah, I understand. Let's talk a little bit about video that you put out, kind of commenting back to some of the real estate folks on YouTube, and which I thought was great. By the way, I mean, you're for everybody that doesn't know this, Michael's got a really good YouTube channel. I watch every one of those. You were talking about Ben Mala.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who Ben is, he's this, larger than life, ginormous guy.
Yeah, he's a big human being.
He is something else. You think he's putting on, but I think that's just him. But he's, multi-millionaire, got, hotels and that sort of thing. And, Ben was on video, and I don't know how much of it was put on, but to me, he seemed genuinely concerned. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be okay. He's probably got $100 million, but just the concern was, I thought it was genuine. Did you?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You could see it in his face. When he Ben Mala, again, I think conservatively was worth $100 million going into this event. Ben Mala is not worth $100 million today. Let's just be clear. There's been a little deterioration in that net worth, no question.
Yeah, a lot of his money is in hospitality, hotels,
retail and hotels.
Yeah,
and then value add affordable housing is kind of where he also is. But again, retail and hotels are perhaps the worst things to own today.
Yeah.
And to be highly leveraged in the worst segment is actually, it's kind of good and bad. And I kind of put that out in the video. First off, it doesn't feel good today when you have a gym that used to cut you a $50,000 a month rent that suddenly calls you and says they can't. That doesn't feel good. But just like we talked about earlier with the mom and pop and the 30 units in Vegas, Ben can very clearly call up his lenders, which is probably agency debt, which means cheap and most flexible, and say, hey, here's my rent roll. And here are all my letters from my strip mall that none of them are paying. Ben Mala is going to get workouts. It is going to be uncomfortable. It is going to hurt him personally. He will probably have to give up some of his toys, but he's going to be fine. I cannot see Ben Mala losing a single property because he owns the worst stuff. No bank wants a strip center today. Just like that 30 units in Vegas. No bank wants that. They will bend over backwards for Ben Mala. Just like his hotels, right? He talked about, his hotels bringing in $1 million a month that are now bringing in zero. Pretty easy to document for banks. Ben Mala is going to get workouts. It will be uncomfortable. It will add stress to his life. He will have to make some personal sacrifices, but Ben Mala is going to be okay.
Yeah.
If we talk about, Grant Cardone, who owns Class A multifamily, which is highly leveraged, I don't think he's going to be as okay because unlike Ben owns the worst stuff and banks know it. Grant owns kind of that multifamily segment, which is still kind of sexy, still kind of transacts. There's still hedge funds out there. He could lose some because he probably has covenants in his loans that say they have to stay at 70% economic occupancy. It could even be higher. Owning that Class A multifamily stuff bought near the peak, whoa, that's going to be uncomfortable. And again, I believe Ben Mala, most of his money is his money, right? The equity is his. In Grant's situation, it's very clearly limited partners and syndications. And man, he is going to have the worst time managing tenants, but equally and probably louder are all these limited partners that are going to become chewing on his ear and begging to get out and threatening lawsuits and no preferred returns. And now he's got a 5-year versus a 10-year hold. And just talk about the stress level.
Grant he has a lot of moving parts and he has a lot of folks involved in his business.
The overhead he has. And again, I think Grant will be fine.
Sure.
Just like Ben, he's going to have some toys taken away as a slap on the wrist. I do not believe he will have his jet in a year. I believe he'll be told to sell it. He may lease it back or something of that nature, but it will no longer be his and his company's. He'll have some pain. I think Grant will leave it just fine. But again, this whole the thing I like about Ben is I believe it's all his capital, at least his family's capital. He may have some of his kids and all of that in it. But that is just such a nice place to be when you're making calls about your stuff. When you have to make calls about thousands of other LPs, no, thank you. I will never, ever do that. That would eat me alive. And I think it's eating him alive. I've seen some of his videos lately and he looks stressed.
Yeah.
And he should be. I just hope he stays awake because he has a well-documented history with drugs. I just hope this doesn't push him over the edge and that comes back. I mean, that would be a horrible outcome of this event if that demon raised its ugly head. And it could. Stress is an evil thing. So I wish both of them the best of luck. I think Ben actually survives better because he owns the worst stuff, which is just an interesting thing to say.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, they say the only difference between rich people and poor people are the size of their toys and the size of their problems.
Yeah.
And that's very,
I like that.
Yeah, it's very true. So, all right, man. Well, advice closing out here to folks in general or to landlords that may have a lot of, or even a few properties.
Yeah.
What's the best thing to do right now?
the goal is survive through the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I call July 1st. Let's survive through July 1st. So what do I mean by that? Well, that means cancel all capital improvements, or at least delay all capital improvements. That means communicate with your tenants, be ready to take partial rents and rent payments. These are not rent holidays, so you will get that back whether you tack it onto the end or spread it out over 12 months. Just be ready that, most of my tenants are, if they don't live where I have them, they're living in their car.
Mm-hmm.
So let's be good human beings first. But then let's get ready to take advantage of what's coming the second half so we can thrive in the second half in 2021. I believe we're going to have 18 months of buying opportunities because of forbearance. I believe there are so many people that are going into forbearance today that won't be able to make that big check, or that big 4th month or 6th month mortgage payment. And banks are going to start foreclosing because the economy will be coming back. Banks will be foreclosing because there should be some equity. And we're going to have 18 months of buying. But again, survive through July 1st, and let's thrive after that.
There you go. Chaos breeds opportunity.
There you go.
All right, man. Well, hey, if folks want to learn more about you and your book, which is the best damn book on buying rental property, where do they find out more information?
Yeah, so I put out daily content where we're averaging 2 or 3 videos a day on my YouTube channel called One Rental at a Time. You can go to Amazon and buy my book, although people are telling me because Amazon has so much stuff going on, it takes a month to get.
Wow.
So a lot of people are buying the Kindle version, and we just got on Audible a month ago. So I'm really happy that we put it on Audible. So maybe Audible is a better answer today.
Yeah, I will sell my copy for $500 with free shipping. Come on now.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
all right, buddy. We will put links to everything. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You are the voice of reason in a very noisy world at the moment. So if I can do anything for you, you know where I am.
Thanks, buddy. Take
all
care
right, man. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Yeah.